G'day guys, been working away, trying different filtering techniques on these detectors. So to make some really good inroads actually. In the meantime, um, those of you who have the older detectors who like using big coils, drag coils on the back of your motorbikes or quad bikes, however you do it, or even if you just tie it to yourself and walk around. Yeah, Dave started making these big coils again. These are ones that you can basically use some cable ties and drill some holes through plywood and make a round configuration if you want maximum depth, or you can actually cross it over as a crossover coil if you've got really bad interference. So because these are flexible, um, you know, it's like a small hose. So you can configure it any way you want, and at the end of the day, it just packs up like so. So we can send these all around the world. And Dave's make this one here's a 50-inch, by the way. It's pretty big. It's going over to the US. So drag coils are now available. Well, they always have been, but we've never pushed it. And Dave has set up an area with some boards, guides, and so forth, where he can wind up coils of any size. There's a bit of time involved in making these. It's fully shielded, and they work really well. So that's a 50-inch. Normally we make these about 30 inches or so. And the other way you can use these as well, I should explain this. You can get the drag coil and you can put it on a piece of plywood, and you just need to make a little skid at the front of it so it doesn't catch on rocks and dig in. So it's just basically some sort of skid. You make it out of plastic or whatever, and put the coil down with plastic cable ties onto a piece of plywood, or you can even use plastic sheet for that matter. And however, and what we found people do, people like looking for big buried items, such as I know people have used drag coils on beaches looking for treasure chests. So in that configuration, you probably have to tie it to yourself, make a harness, and just walk and drag it behind you on some sort of skid arrangement. But with these coils, if you're looking for a patch and you want to cover a lot of area quickly before anyone else gets onto your area, what I've done in the past, I've put them out about like that. So they're a big long sausage. And as you have it like this, you pull it along behind you. And if it goes over any small target, it's going to ping like crazy on the target. So it's going to be a little bit limited in depth doing that because it's only so you're only going to go down maybe that or something or other. But if you open it right up, this thing will go down, God, 50 inches probably go down 4, 5, 6 feet. Depends on the size of the object. And even on a big coil, even if you have it as a big coil, even small objects as they go under the actual coil itself here, it'll ping. And you've got to be aware of that you might be looking in the center, but it's mainly pinged on, the outside winding. And what you'd get if this was all unwound, you'd get ping here and you get ping again. So you'd probably get 2 pings as you went over a small target with this set up at 50 inches. You can do these square, you can do them round, you can make them a big long sausage, you can flip them into a crossover coil, so you can null out all sorts of bad interference and still get away with using a fairly big coil. So that's I'm not going to unpack it and make it big. It's totally pointless to do that here. But as you see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 of these circles if you just extrapolated that out. And standard coil connector. Normally what the guys do is mount this on their board, and they'll mount the detector on an outrigger, on a piece of 4x2 or something, and they'll just run the audio like a remote wireless setup, or extend the wires and use headphones with a wide setup. So you don't run a lot of this connection cable, right? You know, that's probably standard 1.5 meters long or whatever it is. But if you start running this and extending it longer and longer, if you try and put the detector up on the front of the bike or whatever you're using, you'll start getting extra cable capacitance in longer lengths of this, and it will reduce the sensitivity to small signals. So 1.5 meters is probably where you want to go. You could probably take it to 2, but just remember, as you start extending cable lengths, you'll start having an effect on very small signals, ones with fast rise and fall times, because the cable capacitance will try and smooth that out. Instead of getting a sharp ping off a small target, it's more rounded. And if it's so rounded that it falls off the receive cycle where the detector's looking, you probably won't hear it. So be aware of cable capacitance, the biggest enemy in pulse induction detectors. So this will work on your SD2000s, SD2100s, SD2200s, GP, I'm trying to remember on GP Extreme, GP 3000, GP 3500, and what's the other one? There's another one too. It's a mid-range. GPX 4500, GPX 4000, and what was it, 4800? GPX 4800. I don't know how many of those were made. And GPX 5000. It'll work on all those detectors. It'll also work on a White's TDI. It'll also any of those detectors that are pulse induction and just take standard type Minelab coils with that connector, the standard 5-pin connector. It's actually these are actually microphone connectors, if anyone wants to know. Been used from the day dot, and it's pretty much a standard. They do work. They're, good surface area on the connector pins, gives a good contact. Just keep them clean, keep the dirt out. That's the main trick of those things. But yeah, like I say, you can always get on to detectormods.com on the website, message Dave, talk to him about drag coils. You can make your drag coil any size you want. Don't start saying you want something, 20 feet in diameter or something. That's just getting ridiculous. I mean, you could do it, but it's how you going to tow that? So that's that with the flexible drag coils. The best thing about them, I'll just show you on my flexible coil I use. I'll put that there. Oh, this one's been around the traps, but this one here, this is what I use inside the room, so I get rid of 50 hertz and any other type of interference radio waves and that, so I can test detectors in mono mode. And that's just a round coil. Same principle. Got a bit of I had it taped so it didn't move. When you put these into a figure eight, they've got to be perfectly balanced. I'll just break that. But that's just a round coil. This is the thicker one, as you can see. And what we do with this, you can actually just use it as a standard mono coil, put it in a frame and go detecting with it. Or do what I do, and I do this, and now I've got an anti-interference coil, anti-interference mono coil. So it'll pick up here and it'll pick up here. So if you're using it to go detecting, it'll have a bit of a null in the middle. And if you have it like so and swing it this way, right, you'll get a signal here. And as you go over it, you'll get another signal there. Or if you do it this way, and I've seen some coils over in, who makes them? Nell coils. they have them squished in a bit like so, but they are actually double D. But you can do it with these as well. Squish it in a bit, squish that in a bit, and you've got a really good anti-interference coil that can go in smaller housing. So they're quite, as long as you do that there and do that there, it'll keep the symmetry and it will cancel out interference. See what happens, the interference comes in, it hits both coils at the same time, no matter where it's coming from. And what happens, it'll go in this one and it will say, okay, it's coming on whatever phase it is. And because this one is a flip of that, that noise will get cancelled. As the two are equal, you'll get a plus and a minus, or a minus and a plus, and a 1 minus 1 equals 0, and that's what you're going to get. The noise is cancelled out. But because the way these work with metal objects, you get the metal object here, it's not here. It can't cancel out. So if it gets pinged here or pinged there, it will give a really good clear signal. At depth, you'll tend to get a cancellation effect a little bit in a crossover, but as you come out of the middle part there, as you come out, you'll start getting a signal on this or that, depending which way you're going. So these should not be overlooked as a really good coil option, especially cranking up the gain. You can crank up your gain and you're not going to pick up all that atmospheric or radar or anything, TV towers or radio. This will cancel it out, make it gone. So you can make these quite big, and then you'll start getting really good depth because they're more offset. It's further away over here and there. So they can be used on big targets, and you'll get the advantage by getting rid of all the noise. Anyway, that's all, folks. I just thought I'd throw that in about cancel coils and our big flexies for dragging around the bush. So they're pretty robust, actually. It's damn solid. But like I say, it's still flexible. And, if you use plastic cable ties, when you put this on a bit of plywood, you just have a big bag of old cheap plastic cable ties. And if you want to change configuration, just cut the cable ties, and then if you've got an interference issue, flick it over. Even better, you probably get those plastic clips. They're like a half circle, but you can't use a nail or anything to put on your plywood because a nail will upset this. But if you could come up for a way, thought of a way, if you use Velcro, if you had a whole, some Velcro basically stuck down on the plywood and you put the opposite strip of Velcro over this, you could lock it in place. And if you wanted to change configuration, you just have other Velcro laid out, and then you just peel this off and put it which way you want. Turn into a cancel coil, open it up as a big one, make it a big long sausage for patch finding. Anyway, I'd go pick up a kid from school. Catches.